Gotta get some light on the side. Yeah, we're live. It is 5:50. Tim, what's going on? Today, I actually want to talk to you about a new project that I have coming up. I've decided to do something unique and different, something that takes a little bit longer to. Not that some of these things haven't taken a little while to finish, but a project that's a little bit more involved than stuff that I normally do. A lot of times I will go down to West Tech, and if I have a motor and it's running, it's complete, it's ready to go, then I can do some testing on it and get testing what I can while I'm there, given the available time and the available engines that I have and parts that I have at my disposal. This one is going to be more of a dedicated thing. So we're right now we're going to keep it a mystery project. And the reason that we're keeping a mystery project is because a lot of times when I go on, I find that when I go on and talk about some of these things and we all get together and on the live feed, and then obviously other people come in after the live feed's over and they come in and make comments and stuff. But when we start talking about doing a particular project or say, hey, wouldn't this be cool? What happens very often is that other people out there in YouTube land go, oh, that's a really good idea. I need to go do that. And then they go do it. And especially with some of the larger channels and stuff where they have, a great deal more funding and have a lot of good people that work with them. They end up doing these projects that we think about and have these good ideas, and they end up running with it. And obviously it becomes very successful for them because it's a good idea. Not that they couldn't come up with a lot of that stuff themselves, but that happens. So rather than just come out and say what it is, right now we'll say it's a mystery project. We've talked about it a little bit before, but what it is we want to take an LS head or LS heads and cut them and weld them and do things with them and create a setup where we can run an LS headed thing on something that didn't have an LS on it. In order for me to do that, unfortunately, these things, all of these things cost a great deal of money. So we have, in this case, more than most, because we have all the dyno time and that sort of stuff, but also we have a lot of work to do on the cylinder heads, a lot of cutting and welding and machining and a lot of machine work done on the motor to do the things to it that we want to do to make the necessary power that we kind of want to make. It's cool to put things together and just put it on there and run it and go, hey, yeah, look, this is kind of cool. But it's even better when you could put it on there and make power. Because why go to the trouble of making an LS headed anything if you're not going to take advantage of what the LS head flow has to offer? So if you have a motor that's going to make 150 horsepower, you're wasting your time putting LS heads on there. It just doesn't, there's no benefit to that. If the stock head that's already on there or stock heads that are already on there will do that, then why would you worry about upgrading that unless you're going to go, look, it's really cool. And 150 horsepower, 300 horsepower is even better. So double that. So that's the kind of thing I'm thinking. And rather than just come out and say, hey, look, you guys, could you guys throw some super chats money out there? That's not what I need. I'd rather ask that so you guys could buy me a drink when Lisa and I do happy hour at horsepower. That's a lot funner. I have a thing like that coming up. Since it's summertime, we can be outside. You guys are going to help me tip the waitress and we'll do some fun things. But right now, what I want to do is I wanted to make a situation. I want to create a situation where I can help fund this kind of project. But I want you guys to get stuff out of it too. So people that are watching here on the live feed and people that are watching after the live feed, here's the setup. So here's what we want to do. So ideally, what I want you to do is not provide super chats money. You can if you're here and you're doing a live feed and you want to throw $1 out there or 2 or 10 or 15 or 20, whatever it is, that's fine. But what I'd rather have you do is go to PayPal. And what I'm going to do is put my... So this is my email address. Use that email address for PayPal. And what's going to happen is for anybody that says, hey, look, Richard, I want to help with this project. I want to do something. Here is $20. So if you do $20 on PayPal, what I'll do is send you a free signed t-shirt. So we'll send you it is a Wrong Cam t-shirt. They should be here in the next 6 or 7 days, I'm thinking, according to the people that I ordered them all from. I have large, extra large, and double X, I think, are the three sizes that I got the most of. So those will be available. So if you go to PayPal and you can supply that, kind of essentially you're buying a t-shirt. But like I said, I wanted there to be some value to that. So if you wanted to step up even more than that, anybody that would pledge $200, you get a free cam and a free signed t-shirt. So you get a cam and a shirt for $200, which is a pretty cheap deal. If you were just buying it, the signature adds no monetary value, I don't think. For some guys, they want to see that. So if you can do that and you can help out with this project, I'll use this money to go to fund the project, and I'll be able to get it done. Otherwise, a lot of these things I can't do, even though I'd want to do them, and I obviously know how to do them. Sometimes there just isn't the money available to make this stuff work. So, but it would be very, very cool, because putting LS heads on something that's not LS, always a good idea. You know, LS head the world, LS swap the world, and we're LS swapping a motor or part of a motor, which is kind of cool. So that's kind of what I want to do, and then I will repeat myself later on, so you guys I can reiterate this to people who are just tuning in, because we get a lot of people that are just tuning in. So again, if I'm trying to fund this project, go to PayPal. $20 get you a shirt, $200 get you a shirt and a camshaft. Both the shirts would be, in either case, they would be signed. Make sure if you go to PayPal, I also put my email address. For those of you that didn't see my email address on the comments, I also put it in the description of this video. So go to the description of the video. My email is there. Use PayPal. Go do that. And if you guys can help out and I can reach the number that we're trying to reach, then I can go ahead and go forward with doing that project. It'll take a little bit because we have a lot of cutting and measuring and welding and other things just to get the head or heads on there and make that work. But and honestly, this might involve custom connecting rods and things too. So it's a lot more involved than what I would normally get involved in, only because I like to have videos that help more of the average guy. And this is not quite that. doing this kind of thing is much more of a big deal, I think. And I don't know how many people would actually do this, but the number of people that want to view it, I think, is a lot, and they would think it's cool, especially if we make power and we get to hear it and hear what it sounds like, and finally get to kind of see it run and do all that stuff. It would be fairly cool. Also, the V12 is coming up. I'm going back to see Brian, so we'll be able to run the V12 and do a couple of tests with that, see if it works, if it works at all, if we can do the upgrades to it, because we also have, we've got some ported heads on that one too. The heads that I'm going to run on this mystery project, Airflow Research Mongoose LS3 heads, so really good heads. Those will be semi-sacrificed to do this. But it will be fun. Like I said, this is unique, and it's new for me. It's something I've never done, so it should be fairly cool. It should be fairly cool. And then, but what I want to talk about today, also in addition to that, and we'll keep coming back to that. But what I wanted to talk about was, let's see here. I had a video. I had some data waiting here. Here we go. LS3 turbo. Okay, so what I want to talk about today, in addition to you guys helping with that project, are 600 horsepower LS combinations. So how do we make 600 horsepower with an LS? And the ways that I put up there, I purposely put up 4 different ways, 4 different methods, and what I wanted them to be was all different. None of these are essentially the cheapest way to do it, although I think a turbo and an LS, a junkyard LS and a turbo. I mean, if you have an LS already and you just add a turbo to it, that's fairly expensive. If you have the right LS, you could just add enough nitrous to it, and that also would be very expensive. But we have nitrous and we have a turbo on the different combinations. Excuse me. And so the first one, might be the most expensive. It would be an all motor LS application, and it made 604 or 5 horsepower and 500 and it looks like about 10, 20, 30, 530, between 35 and 40 foot-pounds of torque. And what it is an all motor LS3. So what it has is in order to make 600 horsepower with an LS3, you have to have really three things. Even though the stock heads will support that power level, it gets a little hard to get there with the stock heads. You can do it, but it takes a really big camshaft. And then you run into the balance between the ability to have enough camshaft with the stock available piston to valve clearance. And then you help your situation out by having an intake manifold that's not the factory intake manifold. So the factory LS3 manifold, as much as we like it and as well as it works and as hard as it is to beat, it's actually not hard to beat for peak power. So it makes the power that it makes, but it does want to run, given its runner length, it wants to be optimized in a given RPM range with the 6.2 liter. So the problem becomes if 600 horsepower or above is your number, harder to get there with the stock intake manifold. So what I did is we put good heads on it. You could put TrickFlow ported LS3 heads. You could put factory ported LS3 heads on, but the Airflow Research Mongoose heads. There's a lot of good heads for it. You could even put a bunch of ported Cathedral port heads on there that would also do this on a 6.2. Then we put a good size camshaft in it, a BTR like the Stage 4 LS3 camshafts, good choice. Summit's Stage 4 LS3. You might be able to get there with a sloppy Stage 3 camshaft. Probably be right there. And those I think are fairly inexpensive. That's the Elgin version. There are a few cams from various manufacturers, but it's going to be, mid 230s at 50 kind of thing. And then up there, you're balancing the duration and lobe separation angle and available piston to valve clearance because you're getting to whatever the most kind of camshaft you could fit given the available piston to valve clearance. That becomes a problem, flat top piston and stuff. So but the other thing that does it is the intake manifold. On this one, we ran we've done this a couple of ways. One, with one of the fabricated sheet metal manifolds with radius air horns and stuff in them. We did one with that. We did the one also with an IR manifold. This one was from Speedmaster, and that allowed us to get there too. There are other ones that you could do. An Edelbrock Super Victor would do that with fuel injection, or maybe even better with a carburetor. A Hiram with dual quad openings on it probably would get you there. There are a few things. The Performance Design manifold would probably get you there. Certainly their cross ram style things would get you there. So there are a few different. What you want to do is you want to have a manifold that's designed to make power at a higher engine speed. You are going to trade power down low compared to a factory LS3 manifold, but you are going to be able to make that sort of peak number. And so 600 horsepower from an LS3 heads cam intake manifold. You might be able to do it with the factory heads, particularly if you mill them a little bit and maybe do some minor port work on them. You probably be able to do it with enough camshaft and with the right kind of intake manifold because they flow pretty well. So that's the LS3 version. The next way to do it, and the way that a lot of people do it, and probably inexpensively so, is that you take a 4.8 or a 5.3, and I like the 5.3 in choosing between those two. I would pick the 5.3. So because you're starting off with more power and more torque and more boost response, and then you just add a turbo. So you need a turbo, an intercooler, the right injector, or the right fuel pump, tuning. And then you can easily make 600 horsepower with just a stock motor with no camshaft. And you could put one of the, like I have these low buck truck camshafts. You could put that in there. It would easily do it then at a much lower boost level. That's a good camshaft. A Truck Norris camshaft from BTR, the Chupacabra. There's a lot of good cams. And I mentioned those because I've been going back and forth with some people about them wanting turbo specific camshafts or they're wanting blower specific camshafts. And And I'm trying to get them to understand what happens when you have a camshaft that makes more low speed power NA, that's what they should be concerned with. And all of these cams do that. So if you have more power NA, you have better boost response with a turbo. You also are going to make more power than a typical positive displacement blower cam does down low, because it enhances power production NA. And so we'll see that also under boost, and it will be better. The thing to consider, though, with a root style supercharger is not that camshaft doesn't work, because it does. But what it will do also is, because you're making more power, you'll have traction issues. And you might also, because you're making more power down low, you have to be real. The tune is very, very important, because it won't take as much timing there as the other camshaft will that makes less power. It has less cylinder pressure. I'm actually not sure. I got to think about the boost situation, but it will be more prone to detonation, because it's making more power. So you need to be, you just need to be spot on with the tune. So 5.3 turbo, just add boost. If you started out at like 350 or 355 with a little bit of boost, going over 500 and a little bit more boost, 600, it's not a hard deal. And then with any kind of camshaft, like you said, I've got these low buck truck camshafts, 179, shipped to your doorstep. Those are available right now. Or if you want to go a little bit bigger, add the Truck Plus. But any kind of camshaft like that, the Truck Norris, Chupacabra, whatever, any of these kinds of camshafts, any sort of camshaft like the low buck truck that I had would take you from 350 to over 400, 425, somewhere in that range. And if you have that, it just makes life easier for making power, because then instead of doing it at 10 pounds, you probably would do it at 6 or 7 pounds. So you can make a lot more power that way and still have plenty of boost response. So that's another easy way to do it, is a 4.8, 5.3, or 6.0. 6.0 makes life even easier. Just add boost, just inexpensive turbo. So another way we did it, I want to show all the different avenues. And the next way, obviously, was nitrous. We did it with a 383 stroker. And the 383 stroker made, in this configuration, made about 550. You really could throw together a 383 with even a stock head, I think, and get near 500. It would be a lot better, though, if you had a good cylinder head. This one had good cylinder heads on it. It had ported 706 heads from the guys at Total Engine Airflow, and those worked very well. We've also run the TrickFlow 205 and 215 heads on these kind of 383s. Those work really well. A decent camshaft. This one probably had a 459 or a 469 camshaft. A Brian Tooley red hot or hot rod cam would also put you there with a 383. This one had a fast manifold on it. A good manifold's a good way to go. And then we just added nitrous. So we went from 550 to over 650. If all we did was want to get over 600, you could start at 500 and just add 100 shot. The nice thing about the nitrous, you could add 100 shot, 150 shot, a 200 shot easily on this kind of combination, especially one that's making 550. Adding a 200 shot to that is not a problem at all. In fact, you could do way more than that. We've run 300 shots with junkyard 5.3s with just cams in them, and that particular one had a carburetor on it. It ended up not being good for the 5.3 because we took the jet out and just ran all the nitrous that the plate would supply. And with a whole bunch of runs like that, it eventually, because we never changed the ring gap, it eventually hurt a piston. And when I say piston, what I mean is it hurt the ring. So the last one we did was 600. Is you can take a 6-liter, and what we did was put a Kenny Bell on it. This 6-liter had LS3 heads on it. So a 6.0, a 6.2, a decent sized camshaft. Almost any kind of camshaft. The ones I mentioned before for the NA stuff, for a 6-liter or 6.2, like I would go maybe bigger than the Truck Norris, unless you just want it to be super, super drivable. Maybe the Truck Plus. You could go with the BTR red hot or hot rod cam, the 459, 469, even a 454 cam on this thing would be fine. And then a Kenny Bell. We ran a Kenny Bell LS3 kit because it was a 6.0. And then we had their big throttle body on it. It doesn't really take very much boost to get to 650 horsepower. In fact, this combination eventually went way over 900 horsepower. So it's, there's plenty of power. This was a 2.8 liter blower. It had easily 1,000 plus horsepower capacity if we wanted to do that. But you could also do this with a 2650, the TVS blowers. Magnus and various people have these available. But any of these blowers that would be big enough. I didn't show it here, but also the Roots blowers, a Vortec, a YSI, or even a T trim at 600 horsepower. Heck, an S trim would easily be able to do that. A Pro Charger, a D1SC, any of these, or even the bigger ones, a YSI, or in the case of the Pro Charger, a F1A94, those kinds of things. Any of these blowers would, like 650 horsepower is almost nothing, especially when you're starting with the Cam 6-liter. It's pretty easy to make pretty big power. So it's all good stuff. But 600 horsepower LS stuff, lots of different ways to get there. And so you guys can kind of pick however you want to do it. There's depending on what you're starting with. For a lot of guys, that dictates the avenue they're going down. Well, I already have this and this and this. And so I'm already halfway down this road. So that's the thing I'm going to go with. And we're just going to keep going on that stuff. So we'll see what you guys got going on. Tim, what's going on? Free. Yes, it's all free. It's free. But wait, there's more. That's right. Waylon, Goodfellas, Jet Black, Marshall, what's going on? Picking up what you're putting down. Yep. LS, 3-cylinder, 2-liter. Yeah, that would be good. One of the things that we were thinking about was actually a 2-cylinder LS. And that's kind of what that's in the back of my mind also for some of these things, because there may or may not be some of the cylinder head left over for what we're doing. So the 2-cylinder thing is like a V-twin deal would be weird enough that that would be cool. Winston, thank you very much. How long will be going on for? I'm thinking for the next week or so. Baker, Dean, the Dance Machine. If I give you 48, can I get 2 shirts? Yes. For every 20, yeah, we'll do that. I think a V12 or a V16. We have the V12 already. A 16, that would be cool. The cam is a 212 to 220 something, 552 lift on a 107. Richard, you're at the public library. Adrian, cool. Will the mystery engine find a mystery car to go into? Let's see. This one will, yeah. Skyrim would be cool. I am going to do something because I've done that before. Before they did that, I did some EFI stuff that was very, very tall. And I think I need to do some even taller stuff. Fast intake, large cam ported heads. Yep. So 60 heads, cam springs, get 500 horsepower from it. Prep for boost. Yeah, 6-liter, a 500 horsepower 6-liter with a with a big enough camshaft in it. And it's hard to get there. I mean, you could get to 6-liter with a 706 head or 243 head, but it takes a pretty good sized camshaft to get there. Torque Monster 440. Richard, how much am I leaving on the table using a 550 lift cam versus a 600 lift cam? Everything else being equal. I don't know. I don't know what cam you have, and I don't know what the combination is. So we need to key in on that for me to figure out how much the 50,000s lift if you didn't change anything else. What you are going to change, though, is the ramp rate on the cam. If you keep the duration the same, if you keep everything else the same, keep the opening and closing points the same, and make it 600 lift, you're definitely going to change the ramp rate, which is going to change the stability of the camshaft, which can create issues. So more than likely, that's not going to happen. Where it's the same cam. The one thing they did do that on, we have the Truck Norris cam test where we ran the Truck Norris, standard Truck Norris, which is like 552 lift, 553. And then we ran the Truck Norris NSR, which has the same duration and LSA, but a change in 50,000s lift. And there was about 5 or 6 horsepower on that one. But as we go farther away from the mild side of the cam to a wilder side and to a combination that wants more of that, the gains should get greater. A slant 6. Yep, I have a slant 6. M90 might get you close. It definitely can support 500. I have a guy that reached out about he has one of the MP90X housings, the blowers, and also a Ford M90. And so he's offered to send that so that we could do some testing on that, which would be very cool. The old days, pure stock cylinder heads and intake manifold, zero porting and gasket matching were really exciting. Get to 700 horsepower all motor. So without porting a head, what factory head supports 700 horsepower? A Hemi head or something? You ever tested a Viper V10? I have not. I've not run one on the engine dyno, and I don't think I've ever even been there when people have run one on the chassis dyno. I really like them, especially the Viper GTS. I like those better than I like the convertibles. Richard, I'm running a 3rd gen LQ4. Oh, you're turning one into an LY6, running into issues finding the right matching head gasket to match the block of the head. There's no change in the head gasket. Head gasket's exactly the same between a LQ4 and an LY6. There's no difference. Just go buy an LS head gasket. That's that right side. That's a 4-inch bore. And in fact, you're not going to find a 4-inch bore head gasket. It's going to be bigger than that. Oh, we do need a pole, right? Okay, will you help support the mystery turbo motor build? Start our poll. Let's see what's up. Let's see who's talking about it rather than being about it. .62 LS3 with a Truck Norris cam sounds fun. You would the thing that would feel great about that is you would pick up so much low speed power with a Truck Norris cam over a factory LS3 camshaft. Because an LS3 camshaft, if you compare it to a 5.3 or a 4.8 camshaft, an LS3 camshaft is way down on power. And I'll tell you how far down it is because I have that test. So if we look at final LM7 camshaft, and then we look at final LS3 camshaft. Actually, that's not as much as I thought. I thought it was more than that. I thought it was going to be like a ton. So it's 21 or 22 foot-pounds down at 2,600. And it's down compared to the LS3 camshaft up to 4,200. And then the LS3 cam is better. So the Truck Norris cam is going to add a bunch of power compared to that LS3 cam in the middle part of the curve, in the beginning and middle part of the curve. Richard, I got an Explorer 3-bar GT40 heads. Okay. I'm doing a carb blow-through I'm sure it's a carb blow-through turbo with a nitrous 264 cam that I've been sitting here. How much boost for 480 real horsepower with 5-speed? 480, 580. That's going to be a lot. I don't know. It's going to be more than 15. Oh, no, I take that back. I don't know what I was thinking. Hang on here. So, no, that would be 300, 600. That thing would easily make 300. Less than that. My mistake. I was thinking for some reason 600 wheel horsepower. So that thing's not going to make 300 at the tire. It's going to make like low 300s probably or near 300, let's say. $200, $220, $480. Yeah, it's going to be 15, 16 pounds, I think. Did you ever hear a better sounding cam than Thumper Cam? That's your jams, Bill, is a Thumper Cam? Mickey Thomas built and raced a Pontiac 4-cylinder Trophy 4 with 2 cylinders cut off. It was named Assault. It remained at an inline configuration. Yeah, if you have an inline 4-cylinder and you take 2 of the cylinders away, you can make it a 2-cylinder. That's different than what I was talking about. A V45 2-cylinder is more challenging. Yep, I agree. It is. L3 09 Corvette. I want to be able to keep the rear exit dual exhaust. Would it be better off doing a turbo or centrifugal supercharger? We'll be running the 219 cam. I think a blower would be better if you want to keep the exhaust. I mean, you could run the turbo into a 3 and split it into 2 into the dual exhaust. You can make that happen in the exhaust underneath the car. But with a centrifugal blower, you don't have to do anything to the exhaust. You just run it the way that it is. Let's see. The Pro LS piston and rod kit I need from Summit is now back ordered until October. Yeah, I can tell you what the it's the Magnuson Power blower housing. Let's see. Okay. So I may have said the name wrong here. Let's see. So he's calling it a Magnum Powers MP90X supercharger. So it's the custom housing that they did for the M90 rotor pack. And also, like I said, he has the M90 from the Ford Super Coupe. Have you done any Oldsmobiles? I have not. Pontiac, Ram R5, L88. Super stock stuff. A 428 Cobra Jet would flow enough to make 700 horsepower? Like a Boss 429, I believe. A Hemi, yes. An L88, I think that should be more than 350 or something. A Ram R5, definitely. Ram R4, I don't know how much those flow. Jay, thank you very much. That's I'll always appreciate it. All the rules had to use NHR specified factory valve list, but able to use duration. Yeah, I know, I get that. I just didn't know that the cylinder heads would even support that kind of power. Matthew, I would like to do Oldsmobile stuff. I just have never come across one that I could run. Performance design 112 versus LSX RT 105 millimeter on a 6-liter. Jackson, if you're an LSX, okay, first of all, performance design, I don't think that they have their Cathedral out yet. Unless if they do, it would be news to me. The one that they made for the the one that they made for the rec port head. Fast doesn't make an LSX RT for a rec port head. So I don't know which two you're trying to compare there. I'm not really excited about noise, but the thumper sound. Oh, so you like that, all that exhaust duration? Richard, I've decided to sell the GT40 engine with the cam. I'll stick to building the 393. Just need Flowtech heads. I don't think I've tested Flowtech stuff. Promax stuff I've tested, but not Flowtech stuff. Whichever finds a 65 Olds 425 run its stock on the Westech Dyno. Slowpoke. What are you asking? What do I need? 550 versus 600 lift cam question. The combo is LQ4 stock bottom end, 243 heads. It's for a jet boat application using the Holley split single plane. Well, you're not going to find a camshaft that's exactly the same. One of them is 550 lift and one of them is 600. So you should just be asking about what camshaft you should use. Olds Tornado. It's going to take a while to spool the 112, probably a bit for the 105. I don't know what you're talking about spooling. He was asking about an intake manifold, right? Getaway, what's going on? Should all remember that thumbs ups can help. Let's get those thumbs up. 500, 700 horsepower had different classes. The HR super stock. I really like the looks of the Summit Cam, 8704, 227, 239 at 50, 551, 108. Just wish it had closer to 600 lift, also using the 26 918 springs. I don't know what you mean by thoughts. He had me tell that. All of them had 700 horsepower, 500 horsepower, zero head porting. Yeah, 500 horsepower from a big block is not, from a big block Chevy, not hard at all. I mean, an L88 with headers on it probably already made more than that. I've seen a ton of lifter failures on rectangular port heads. I don't know why a rectangular port head would be more prone to lifter failure. And I really think it's because of the pushrod angle going around the big port. What do you think? No, I would disagree with that. I haven't seen in the LS world that rec port heads have more lifter failure than cathedral port heads. And that's why they've made the offset rocker on the intake. So is there much of a change in pushrod angularity from that? Recharge the A6 compressor on 80 C30, 100 degrees and 68. Oh, to 68 in minutes. Nice. Hey, 68 degrees is nice, especially given how hot it is outside. All the cams I find for D-Series have bigger intake duration versus exhaust, unlike small blocks. So why do you think that is? That's because the intake to exhaust flow relationship of the that's a 4-valve head, right? That's a D-Series. That's because of the intake to exhaust flow relationship of the D-Series head. I don't remember what the flow rates are in the D-Series, but their thinking is when you get close, when the intake and the exhaust, the closer that the intake and the exhaust flow get to being even, they seem to want to favor the cam. They want to skew the camshaft, either have it be single pattern or even skew it the other way. I honestly don't think that that's the way to go, but I'd like to test that though to see. Did some chassis down testing last week. Close V open cutouts, then lighter wheels. Results are absolutely not what I expected and contradicted what the internet says. I don't know. Oh, close versus open cutouts. So you did, excuse me, you did exhaust cutouts and then you did lighter wheels. I know what lighter wheels do. We've done that test a bunch. And I don't know about cutouts. I have dropped exhausts completely, and we know what that does. and a cutout before any sort of cat or cat back exhaust should yield some power. If you still have the 383 at West Tech, I'd be willing to send them to you for a video. Oh, no, I don't have any of those. Got myself a rust-free 4x4 cat eye for $600. It's a 4H. I rebuild it with 5.3 internals or keep the block stock and maybe get 243 heads, eBay GT45, 600 wheel horsepower, pump gas. You don't need to change the heads. I wouldn't change the heads on a 4.8 anyway. You should just add boost to it. Oh, Slowpoke. Yeah, I'm gonna go over that situation here in just a second. I was just trying to get down to the bottom of all the people so I could kind of catch up. I know Steve always makes fun of Mopar 440 heads being a small block Chevy port. He just is talking about more in terms of the flow. None of the factory 440 heads flowed very well, from what I understand. The cylinder heads that you need would be, I mean, Dulcich just ported a bunch of these, or any of the aftermarket aluminum heads like Indy and stuff. What would be the best 6-liter for a street truck? What are you trying to accomplish with your 6-liter? Torque Monster 227, 239 at 50. Going to say that at my power level, the exhaust system I built obviously is more than adequate, and that also could be the case. You know, if you have enough exhaust flow and it's not hindering anything, when we run the exhaust on we run the headers into 3-inch pipes into those Flowmaster mufflers, the power doesn't change if we take the mufflers off. The only thing that changes is the resonance frequency, like we talked about, exhaust scavenging. That has nothing to do with the flow rate, and usually doesn't change the power at the top of the RPM range, just changes it early on because of the length of the pipe. But if we have the mufflers there, don't have the mufflers there, and we have that length there, nothing changes on it because the mufflers are not restrictive. LQ4, 227 cam, 243 head, split single plane. I don't know. I'm kind of leaning toward near 500. Keep it stock, rebuild the heads with an eBay turbo kit. Yeah, I don't even know if you need to rebuild heads. I would put springs in it maybe. As long as they seal up, you know, a Super Ritchie razor blade rebuild kind of thing would be fine. Just put some lapping compound on the inside of the valve and use a drill and spin the drill, and you know, just put a new sealing surface basically on the valves. I'd just take a razor blade and clean off the head and the block, clean everything up, put a new head gasket on, put it on there. I like to use head studs, ARP stuff specifically for turbo applications. If you had the head off, it's not a bad idea anyway. And then, yeah, you just need injectors, big enough injectors, and a tune and an intercooler and a turbo and stuff. You want a turbo, a 6-liter? Okay, so just tell me how much power you want to make, and we can tell you what kind of combination will do that. We definitely see more lifter failures on rec port headed motors than cathedral port headed motors. Yes, the angle is noticeably more on the lifter. Lifter starts to contact the lifters start to contact the side of the push rod. Now you make me want to go look at that. Didn't Engine Masters do something with header extensions versus open headers? I'm sure that they did. We've done it a whole bunch at Westech. I've done it, I don't know, 10 or 15 times on various different engine configurations, just because that's easy to do. You just have to wait for it to cool off a little bit. What was the peak horsepower occurred 300 RPM earlier, higher with the exhaust cutouts open? Yeah, that seems odd, that you would change where the motor made peak power versus, but there was no change in power. like to make 1,000 horsepower. Okay, so if you want a 6-liter that makes 1,000 horsepower, you need an S475 or an S480 turbo, or a VS Racing 7875 Gen 2. And then you need an intercooler. You need bigger injectors, like 80 pounders, or something bigger if you're going to run E85. Your 6-liter will do that with put ring gap in it, put new head gasket, put head studs in it, put springs, put a small camshaft in it. I have cams available if you want a camshaft for that. It would make it really easy. And then with the right turbo and boost and tuning, 1,000 horsepower is very easy with that. BNR, my friend's building a 514 Mopar. I was going to use his stock slightly ported heads. I told him to get better heads. I'll tell him to check out Indy heads. Yeah, that would be a good idea, especially on a 440, the stock heads are marginal. On a 514, they're definitely marginal. How much cam would you recommend for a 6.2 without upgrading the torque converter? What size injectors would be best for cam selection? Pulling from an Escalade and dropping it in a 78 280Z. That's very cool. One of the cams I have, or something size like that, I'm not keep recommending my camshaft, but it's size for what most people want, and was done on purpose, especially for a stock converter. On a 6.2, you probably could run either one of these cams. One of them's a 212, 220 something. The other one's a 219, 225. And you probably could run either one of those with a stock torque converter on a 6.2. On stuff smaller than that, the 219 cam, probably not going to work with a stock converter, or not ideally. But with a 6.2 and this low buck truck cam, you'll pick up a bunch of power, and you can easily use the stock converter on it. Because the guys tell me that they've run 4.8s with this kind of cam timing and stock converters. I find that a little hard to believe, but 5.3s and 6.0s certainly. I wonder about extensions for cutouts versus open cutout. I don't know where your cutout is, T, or where the cutout is in this discussion. I don't know how close it is to the header. If it's right at the header, there could definitely be a change in certainly low speed power. When the lifter contacts the side of the pushrod, the visible mark on the pushrod, it sticks the lifter in the lifter bore and bends the pushrod. We've had several that would bend pushrods on startup. I've run lots of Recport stuff, and I have never run across that. The LY6 was a perfect example. That thing has, I know that thing has 500 or 600 pulls on it. Would you recommend an LY6? Yeah, you can run Rodolfo. You can run an LY6 if you can find that 6-liter that has Recport heads on it and will make more power. Correct. I didn't care about the cutouts being open or closed, but every run with them open at peak 300 RPM higher. So if it made the same power peak 300 RPM higher in the rev range, then it changed somewhere else in the curve. It had to have. It can't make the same power at 5,500 RPM and the same power at 6,000 RPM and not have there be a change in the curve somewhere else. Or at least I can't visualize how that's possible, unless it just went up and stayed the same for all of that RPM. What would you recommend for seat and open spring pressure with a flat tappet? Keep floating them around 600, bend a valve for the second time. I would need to know more about what combination this is. I need to know what size valves they are and kind of what the weight is on the valve. If you just tell me, is this a big block? Is it a small block? Is it an LS? What is it? And I can tell you what kind of spring pressure we would normally run. How hard is it to stud stock Chevy head springs? Don't know what you mean there. Is it, how hard is it to put rocker studs in? The cutouts are right off the header collector. Yeah, that would be problematic for you should have an effect definitely on low speed power if you're opening the exhaust right at what would be you basically have an open header that way. I mean, some of the exhaust is still going to flow through I'm sure if you felt the back of the exhaust, some of the exhaust is still going through there. But having just a long tube header, an open header, and no collector extension definitely reduces power, at least in the early part of the curve. It didn't seem to have a big effect on power at the top, though. There was a slight dip in the mid-range. Yeah, I would expect that. Collector extensions are always worth power. Yeah, they're a good idea for. I mean, I definitely think a thing with 60 foot better with collector extensions on it than just open headers. Just saw the cam and shirt deal below. Thursday night, I'm in. Replace rocker studs with threaded versus pressed in. The machine shop can do that. I would have a machine shop do that because it's very important that they go in straight. AMC 3/8 stem, inch 780. Okay, OD intake valve is pretty heavy. So for a flat tappet cam, we would be like probably less than 150 on the seat. And then open, it probably is going to be in the low to mid 300s. Yeah, Christopher, I don't think that I would try to hand drill and tap that. You might be able to get away with it if you could fixture it on a drill press. Certainly on a mill, if you had that, you could do that yourself. But you definitely want that to be straight. You don't want some of the studs at like all weird angles. You want them all to be in line and at the same angle. Thinking about doing some boom tubes off the cutouts, but it's already insanely loud. I would bet. I'd like to see that setup. I was worried about it being board 40 to get the 514. He did have ARP studs, top and bottom, line board too. So always interesting. Okay, so to go over what I was talking about before, I'm working on a new project. It's AFR LS heads on something that's didn't originally come with with LS heads on it. So it's a LS headed something else. And we want to try to make power with it. So we're using Airflow Research Mongoose LS3 CNC ported heads on it. And so they will be modified by whatever means are necessary to make it work on this non-LS application. And so it's going to be, there's a lot of machine work and cutting and welding and things like that that are going to be necessary to make this happen. And so we got to buy a motor. We got to do all this machine work. We got to do the stuff to the heads and make all that work. It's probably going to require custom camshaft, custom rods and things. And so I want to do this, and I would like to get your guys' help. And the way that I want to do that, I'm not going to just ask for money because that's not what I do. What I want to do is if you guys can help and you want to supply money, I would rather have you not do it on super chats, but that's always appreciated too. Like I said, Lisa and I are going to do some horsepower and happy hour and horsepower deals down at a local watering hole. So you guys will get the help out there. That will be fun. But for this one, what I want you to do, I'll put my email address here again. KillerB16 at AOL.com. So that's my email address. Use PayPal. For every $20 that you send, I'll send you a free signed t-shirt. It's going to be it's a Ron Cam, #RonCam t-shirts. I've got large, extra large, and 2X, I think are the 3 that they made. I should be getting those in the next week or so, and I can send all those out. If you want to do more than that, for $200, you get a camshaft and a t-shirt. So you get a signed t-shirt. Not that the value of the signing does anything, but for some guys, they want to see that. So rather than just asking for the money, I'm giving you something for it. So we have cam and a t-shirt for $200 or a t-shirt for $20. And that will help fund this project, and I can get this thing going. and just have the funds necessary to do the dyno testing, and before that, the machine work and all the stuff that we need to do, so that I can just get it done and don't have to do it a little bit at a time, and take a long time, hopefully, to get it all done. So hopefully that will work. I use friends and family. Thank you very much. Ford 300. Google says 30%. Tim, what's the 30% for? Overbuilt, 78, 75 AMC, normally run about 15 to 18 pounds, occasionally mid 20s. That should be fast then, right? Oh, and that's the one you're having problems with. You're probably having more of a problem at that boost level, so you probably are going to have to do, on the high side of those spring rates. Hybrid dart block with small block bottom end with LS top end thing. No, do you know what a dart hybrid block costs? Yes, Freya. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the PayPal thing is all sorted out. And did you do you by any chance have one of the 352 final drive 1 liter transmissions, or they had it in the 4-cylinder also, the single overhead cam 4-cylinder ones? I need one of those for Bonneville. Sinister Silverado, the 2 cams that I have available, one is a low buck truck. So think about it like a Chupacabra or Truck Norris kind of thing. 550 lift, 212, 220 something, and 107. And then the next one is a 219, 225, and 485 lift, or 585 lift rather, and a 111. I built a 505 Mopar stroker for my 66 Satellite. Those are very cool. That's an animal on the street. Love it. Per my machinist, I'm running stock main bolts. I have 700 miles on it so far. I think that should be fine. If we don't hurt factory LS stuff at 1,500 horsepower and 1,300 foot-pounds, I don't think, and we've never hurt big block Chevys with, I think all of those have been 4-bolt stuff, but Richard, I love the content. I wonder if a turbo 300 inline 6 is in order. It should be, right? Oh, super chat deduction. Yeah, I knew that it was in the 30 something range. Dan, we're gonna need some machine work. That's to do. It'll be interesting. So definitely need some welding and stuff. The Sinister, did you get I just gave you the cam specs, right? Got full ball of nitrous for the Bonneville run if you need it. Clean up the air. That's how you get rid of aero drag, right? We could run that in a fuel class. Thinking here, my thinking is Junkyard 5.3 would give out. It's not going to give out. I was worried about damaging the flat tappet cam lifters with too much spring. Yeah, I think you can do that, but I don't know where that is. I mean, you've got to cure, and the other thing to think about in this, if you're running into a valve float problem, what are the specs on the cam? Is this a cam instability problem? Like, is it a high lift cam and a low duration kind of cam? Is that part of the problem? Because those can be unstable too. They don't have to be really big cams to be unstable. Taylor, yes, I'm going down to West Tech tomorrow. What's your opinion on piston and valve reliefs cut on LT1 pistons? Are you talking about the late model LT1 stuff? I think it's necessary for some of the camshafts that those guys want to run. Small cam 467, 256 hydraulic. Yeah, that shouldn't be too bad. What are the rockers that are on there? Cope, given the power output that guys have run with that, I don't think that I don't know that I would cut a valve relief for a turbo application, but for an NA thing, I don't think I would have a problem with it. You want the I take funds now too? I don't know what that is. Oh, intake funds now. Is that? Did you want the Winston? Did you want the stealth intake manifold? Was that it? No, but Joel has a few. I sent you his bio link in Facebook Messenger. Okay, that was a while ago, right? I think I reached out to him, but then I thought we found another transmission, and then so I told him we didn't need the. I think he just had a final drive for it. I know, that's Bruno barking. Panic V8 guys have done over 1,000 horsepower on stock main cat bolts. Yeah, I don't think that's not an issue that people think it is. Look at all of the runs that guys do on turbo anything, LSs or Hemis or any of this stuff, and how many runs they go out and make at the drag strip, and you never hear of them breaking mains or anything. Definitely rev it beyond the power range of the cam. Just switch to 7/16 rocker studs and Comp Magnum rockers. The Comp Magnum rockers, are those the roller tip stamped ones, or are they full roller? So something like an all-out NA BTR setup with a stock cut piston will last just fine. Yeah, what are you doing with it? What is the application? What are you doing with the motor? Yeah, I'll pick the stealth up when I go down. My dog's standing at the door. Aluminum body full roller. Okay, the aluminum body should help. Just a max effort street bolt on C7. Yeah, that would be fine for that. But max effort street, I don't know that those things go together. So are you going to be running, 13 or 14 to 1? Are you running it on E85? Are you putting a really big camshaft in? Are you putting fully ported heads on it? Are you putting a high RPM manifold in? Are you doing that? Or you're just doing a street motor? Because guys have made over 800 with doing that. I think that probably was on M1 or M5 though. So we're going to close our poll at 78%. Will you help support the mystery turbo motor build? 22% saying no. Ported heads, cam, exhaust intake. Okay. Yeah, you can do that. They have cutting tools for it. It's not going to be a problem at all for what you're doing. It won't be an issue. Or you could just put a cam in it that's more street oriented anyway, and one that you don't have to change, the one that you don't have to cut a valve relief in, and you'll probably be just as happy. Just swap the aluminum rockers after splitting the second stock stamp rocker in half. Is something happening? Well, I guess if you're getting into valve float, that could cause a problem. But a push rod's not hitting a wall or something like that? Or and it has rocker studs in it, right? They're screw-in studs. They're not pressed in, like they're not pulling out or anything weird's not happening. You lost 6 pounds in piston weight. That 6 pounds is a lot. And on that note, it is time to go. Thank you guys all for showing up. Thank you guys all for your support. And I'll be doing more of this. And I'll be heading down to West Tech. So we'll probably doing some live feeds from the truck. So we'll let you guys know what's happening. Once again, thank you guys all for showing up. And I'll see you all tomorrow.